after a while, I just said, "Hey, I'm done feeling like this. I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of, just living any type of way. I really, really want better badly for myself."
I would say for life transitions, if you are in a place where you are stressed out and just not knowing where to turn, I will say this. I always tell this to my clients, when you are out of alignment, the result of that will be stress, anxiety, and all those different things.
So the biggest life transition for me was when I had to be incarcerated for 6 years. I did 4 years on house arrest and then 2 years probation. So over that time, I learned myself. I was able to identify what did I like doing and what I didn't like doing. I learned a lot about myself. I didn't have to be intertwined in the crowds of people that I was in. I was able to actually become peaceful with myself, and I was able to learn myself a lot better.
I would say embrace the flexibility of life. There's so much room for lessons. There's so much room for error, but there's also a lot of room to get it right. And you might not have a lot of time, but there is room for you to make a mistake and learn from it right away.
Well, I would give it as a numerologist. Of course, I am partial, for example, because in numerology, we go each and every year through a cycle, a personal year cycle. So let me back up by saying the universal cycle for this year, 2025, is a 9, because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 adds up to a 9.
Hi, I'm Sierra, the founder and host of C Notes, and today's episode is all about life transitions. And y'all know I'm the cliche queen, so of course I know the cliche goes, when one door closes, another one opens. But if we're being honest, most of us don't walk into the next open door. We pause, we hesitate. Some of us even camp out at that closed door, replaying, regretting, and resisting what's already over. But when one door closes, you have 2 options. You can stay there, stuck in that hallway, grieving what was, or you can choose faith. You can trust that whatever is next, whatever waiting behind the next door, is greater than what's behind you. That's what today's episode is all about, life transitions. And there's so many transitions in life. And I think a lot of us are still transitioning and stuck at that childhood door. We're holding on to that door like, I wish my childhood was like this. I wasn't loved. My mama didn't hug me. And I'm not trying to be funny or just say it, but y'all literally letting something that happened probably a decade, 2 decades, 30 years ago impact your life today. Literally, a lot of us are not where we want to be at today because of what happened to us 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But I'm just going to say, transitions are a part of life, and they can be the best thing that happens to you. Or, you can just stay stuck at the door where a lot of you are stuck at, that door from childhood to adulthood. But let me just set the tone with a song that always makes me reflect. Frank Ocean, Godspeed.
Wishing you Godspeed, glory.
I chose that song because sometimes a door closes not out of punishment, but protection. And even when we say goodbye, we can still send love. We can still wish someone Godspeed, even if we're not going with them. Now, let's sit with this truth. I talked about grief before. It was the first episode outside of Free Your Mind Remix. But grief doesn't only show up when someone dies. Grief arrives when you lose anything meaningful, a job, a home, a friendship, a version of yourself. That's the biggest. And a lot of us are not grieving the old version of ourselves because a lot of us are stuck in that version. But every transition you pray for can carry grief. Every transition you have in life or you experience, it carries grief. Transition just carries grief, and it's something you need to reflect on. A lot of us are not reflecting on our day-to-day. We're not reflecting on our lives. And man, 2025, I've been telling this to people. I felt like, and I'm a therapist and this is my truth. I felt like when I first became a therapist, and I'm going to tell my story the last episode, but when I first became a therapist, it wasn't working. I was doing, honestly, first, of course, what I learned in school, a lot of what we see on TV, you know, and I talk about this. I'm in this seat, and had my notebook, you know, and I honestly, when I first started, I'm like, what am I supposed to be writing about? Honestly, I was just like, this is boring, honestly, and it wasn't working for me or my clients. So I was like, you know what, I got to do the work. Because I'm the type of person, I can't sell what I'm not willing to buy. So when I'm giving them advice, I'm like, I got to give them advice that I follow, like that I've done before. Sorry. And it started changing. I was doing the work, but I wasn't going deep. I was doing surface level work. And when I really started to do the work and really reflect on my life, and I tell this to all my clients, when you start working on yourself and you start looking at life different, first of all, I'm gonna just tell y'all this, memories pop up, but in those memories, I don't stay with them. I don't let them, I'm gonna just say, I don't let those memories keep me stagnant. I own them, and I'm like, you know what? That was a part of my experience. I had to experience, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be this year sitting here today. And let me just tell you, I love my life. I love me unconditionally. I love me so much. But anyways, we don't talk about life transitions enough. We don't talk about what that means and what that looks like. And we don't talk about grieving. I'm going to say, you grieving an old version of yourself, grieving that transition, grieving relationships, just grieving things. And I won't even say grieving, it's processing and reflecting, because honestly, that's what grieving means. Grieving is you processing it the way you need to, honestly. And we say we want growth, but we don't always acknowledge what growth costs. Sometimes it costs comfort, it costs connections, it costs control. And let's talk about the hallway. That hallway between the transitions of, you know, one door to the next one. You gotta walk through to the next door, because the door is not back to back. Sometimes it's a long path, it's a long journey, so you can reflect on the door that just closed. But that hallway, make it sacred. Make it whatever you need to make it. That's what this whole podcast, like C Notes, it's about you doing life the way you need to do life, in a way, I'm going to say this, my truth, in a way that aligns with your values, your morals, and things like that. But when you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming, the space is uncomfortable. But it's also, I'm gonna say, spiritual. It's where transformation begins. I've sat in that hallway, and I think I'm in that hallway now. Maybe I'll be reflecting and all that good stuff, but I've stared at closed doors hoping they will open again, but they didn't, and they weren't supposed to, because some doors close to give you back your life. Let me give you an example. There are relationships in my life that I begged God to save. But in hindsight, they were doorways to distractions. They had to close for me to find peace, to find myself, to find God. And here's the deeper truth. Sometimes the hardest door to close is the one that helped you survive. Maybe it was the people pleasing, the performance, the version of you that everyone else loved, but you were exhausted. And here's the thing. You are not your coping. You are not your title. You are not just someone's partner, parent, provider. You are a product from the Most High. You are a child of God. And yes, the transition is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is proof that you're moving, that you're not numb, that you're alive and you're living. So if you're grieving right now, or if you're going through a transition in your life, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're brave enough to feel. So let's get into today's conversation with these guests. Life transitions. I feel like everyone, of course, is going to experience some sort of life transition, and it looks different for everybody. How has it been for you in your experience with life transitions?
Just start off like as the basics, far as like my first understanding of what home is. It's not a place, but it's the love that you have for people. My first definition of love, of home, I'll say, will be my mother and my brother. And growing up with just us three for so long, and then, as I transition through life, get older, we move around, and home started to go from being my mother and my brother to when I got married. And that transition of trying to understand who I was as a young man, being with my mom and my brother, to becoming a man and being a father and also a husband, it was a rough patch, but once you really put what's important first, it always come together.
So, like, how was that transition going from, I'll say, because that's one of the first transition I feel like most people experience is childhood to adulthood. But I don't know how it looked for you. Like, you transition from childhood to adulthood to fatherhood to husbandhood.
All those different hoods.
Yeah.
It was, what's the best way to describe it? It was very challenging. It was also, I'll say, scary, because I used to be someone that was not accepting of change. I used to always want everything to stay the same.
Yeah.
Once you get accustomed to something, keep it that same way. I don't want it to be different and none of that. So transitioning from being the baby of the family, I'll say, because I'm the youngest between me and my brother, and then transitioning to being the leader of my own family, it was extremely challenging because, for one, I didn't have no male example of what a father's supposed to be, what a husband's supposed to be, what a leader's supposed to be. So me trying to almost like wing everything on my own, it was definitely challenging. But then once I put my big boy pants on, I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this.
So what did that look like to you, putting your big boy pants on?
Ooh, shit. It was putting off to the side of the things that Tyler wanted, things that Tyler felt like he deserved, and all of that, and putting what's important. Not saying that what I deserve and what I want isn't important, but what is best for the sake of my family. What's really important? Is it okay for me to, go hang out all of the time like I used to when I was a kid? Or is it more important for me to maintain a stable source of income and be a stable, supportive husband? So transitioning into that, it was a little difficult for me because I felt like I never had real guidance on how to become or how to be, so, and it took me a little while, but then, once I put my own personal differences to the side and started really looking at the people that I have in my care that I have to be responsible for, it became more of a pride thing. Like I'm excited now to do what I need to do for them, just because it brings joy, it brings happiness, and it brings peace.
Yeah, I like that. Is there any other transition you've experienced that you would like to share?
Also, the transitioning from being a husband to being a husband. I was married for 8 years. So from being a husband and going from that dynamics of my home was my mother, my brother, and me, to my home becoming my ex-wife at the time and my son, to now being just me and my children. That dynamics was a real tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Just because of me trying to understand where I was wrong at in my marriage and stuff like that, and now having to basically play the mom and dad role all by myself. Not saying that like she's not active in my kid's life, which she's 100% active, but just just the small things of doing all of the laundry, cooking, cleaning, doing all of that stuff versus just being a provider and, of course, supporting the kids, but now doing everything all on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was definitely a lot. But it was a challenge, and I know what comes with divorce and stuff like that. So it was very, very challenging and very dark as far as like feelings and stuff like that. But again, it was another sense of me knowing, hey, it's another time you got to put your big boy pants on.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get out here and let's make this happen for real. So,
I was gonna say, like, what was some of the, I'll say, feelings, emotions that you experienced during, I'll say, that transition, because I have a lot of clients in general who come to me after a divorce, especially after almost a decade, 2 decades in that transition to being back single. How was your emotions then? Like, how did you manage those things? Because I feel like with all transitions in life, it comes with a lot of emotion.
mm-hmm.
And navigating those emotions is the best way you're going to do it. I said this a lot. When one door closes, another one opens. But most of the time, we're still stuck on this door. Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what that door looks like. So how were you able to, I'm going to say, let go of, okay, it didn't work out, and now I have to move on to this next door. And doing that, it could be very challenging, dealing with all the emotions that come with it.
For me, in the beginning, it was, to be honest, I know I had fell into a depression, and in the beginning, I didn't want to admit it. I just was like, oh, it's okay. I'm generating a lot of money. I had a couple different sources of income, so I just kept pouring myself deeper into that, and not trying to deal with my emotions head on.
Yeah.
So I just kept trying to push everything off to the side, and the more that you ignore something, the worse it's going to get when you actually do decide, like, hey, let me just deal with this. So with me I say I probably pushed everything off for maybe like a year, and then it got to the point where I'm big on music, so it's like certain songs that I hear, it would immediately put me back into a time frame in my life or a situation that happened. So I just got tired of just running from my own emotions, and those emotions was everywhere. It was a lot of times I was sad, I was depressed, I was mad at myself, and then there was times where it was like, but it will be okay. If you want it bad enough, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to be happy again, happiness is a choice, I feel like.
I agree.
So I did have to just, deal with those emotions head on, which was extremely tough just because I experienced divorce before, but I was a child at the time. My mother got divorced.
Yeah.
So just me seeing how she was moving, how she was feeling and stuff, that's me looking at it as a kid, but going through it as an adult, it was real, like, it was really heavy on my spirit. So, and then also too, trying to explain to my kids that, it's not because of you guys and none of that, because I know how it feels to be a kid seeing my parents go through a divorce. But after a while, I just said, hey, I'm done feeling like this. I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of, just living any type of way. I really want better badly for myself, and I'm still going through transitions of that, like the emotional side, far as like, am I still in love with her or anything like that part is gone, but just keeping my head focused on, hey, look, we have to get to the next level. It's still just a learning experience. So every day you gotta learn.
Yeah, and everything in life is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, and I'm like, the journey doesn't end until we die. So as long as you're on that journey, that's a big part. Like, you know what, I still got another day to keep doing this or do something different. I know you mentioned music. So what was one of them songs that was getting you through those emotions when you were?
I wouldn't even say,
Putting you on the spot.
Who?
I said I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it wasn't even necessarily, I would say, like, it was getting me through, but, well, yeah, I would say it was getting me through. It's called Where I Want to Be by,
Daniel Jones?
yes.
Yeah, I like that song.
I just need time to see where I wanna be.
I love that song. Because, like I said, I've always been a huge, like, music geek, like, huge music geek. So I used to hear my mom playing the song when we was younger. So, and now I sit back and think about things. I can really understand where her emotions was based off the song she was listening to.
Yeah.
So when I got older and I started going through my divorce and stuff, and I would listen to Danielle Jones, at first it was just a song that was a vibe to me. It was like, that's my cut. Then when after the divorce, and I can't even believe I'm even saying this, but after my divorce, I listened to that song probably 2 years straight, every single day, like every day. And majority of the times, of course, it'll have me in my feelings or have me crying or something. I'll cry in the shower with someone. I'm just by myself. I don't want my kids to necessarily see me like that, even though they have. But when I started actually paying attention to what he was saying in the song, it made me reflect on how I was feeling throughout my marriage, as far as I know for a fact that I love you and that I was in love with you at one point, but I know for a fact this is not where I really want it to be. I can't even talk. And instead of me admitting that when things was going on, I just held on instead of just, being realistic with myself. So that song was when I was depressed, it was getting me through things. And then when I started to see the light again, I still listen to it. And now I take it in differently. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I like that. Is there a message you want to leave the audience in regards to life transition? Like, if anybody's experiencing some sort of transition right now, what advice or guidance would you give them?
I would definitely say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of transitions. Because like, for me, I was so accustomed to certain things that I didn't want them to change. I didn't realize when things did change, I only looked at it like change would be bad. So when change did start to happen and I just accepted it, it became a lot of good things came out of it. But in the beginning, I was extremely nervous and scared. So just don't be scared and keep your head focused. Whatever religion you believe in, keep praying every day, keep meditating, just stay focused, and it will change. But it's only going to change if you want it bad enough.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Life transitions. I feel like everyone of course, we all experience transitions at different times or points in our lives. Can you tell me your experience with life transitions?
So with my life transitions, I honestly started out in corporate, and as I'm in that space, I was just going through so much. I wanted to have the degrees. I wanted to have everything out on paper. I wanted everything to look good. And then I got to this point, I would say in about 2018, I was just like, I can't do it no more. Like, I was stressed out. I was angry. Stuff was just falling apart all around me, and I was just like, I can't do it no more. And so when I got to that space, I was like, it's time for me to do something different. And so I knew that corporate wasn't the thing anymore. So I was like, okay, I need to transition to something different. And so I kind of went into a space of isolation, and that looked like me just like out of desperation, just trying to reach out to God in that way. And I was just like, this is not it. And so I was searching more for purpose. So when I did that, I kind of transitioned into just like entrepreneurship. Yeah. And tried to get back out there and do that because I was used to structure. I was used to policies, procedures, and all that. And then I was scared because I was like, I don't know what entrepreneurship looks like. And so I did that. And then now I'm flowing in it. I love it. Like, it's the best thing ever.
I like it. When you just talking about your experience with the transition, mine was very much so similar. Around the same exact time, 2018, 2019, I was like,
I don't want to do this no more. But also you even explaining, I'll say being a part of this rat race. That's what I call it. But it's societal's blueprint. Go to school, go to college, get a degree, get that job. And it's usually a government corporate job. And it's like, that's not life. You start like, okay, I'm doing everything that they say on paper is going to be successful, but you don't feel I don't know. I feel like I didn't feel successful. I just didn't want to do that commute. I wanted to be spending more time with my kids. And I was nervous too, honestly, about that, that transition, only because I had a steady income. That steady income, that good insurance. I always I'm like, that insurance I missed. I ain't gonna lie. Good insurance.
I was honestly searching for freedom, flexibility.
Yes.
Like that type of stuff.
That's exactly what I was searching for. I wanted the freedom and I'll say the time constraints, freedom from time constraints, freedom from the societal, freedom from I just wanted the freedom to be me wholeheartedly. And I knew a little bit about I ain't gonna say I knew anything about entrepreneurship. I had always had my eggs in a lot of baskets, but being intentional about this is your livelihood. This is your livelihood. This is how you're gonna feed your family. That fear, it held me back, and I'll say a little bit, it held me back because I kept going to different jobs. I was like, let me go work here. I went back to the hospital, and then I was like, listening to God, you gotta put your full force in this, because if you're not gonna know if you can really succeed at this,
And that was one thing, honestly, that held me back. Fear grips the mess out of me. To the point where I just was I suffered from sleep paralysis from a young age all the way up until I would say 2020. And it was just fear of judgment, because when you stepping out there trying to do it on your own, you people are going to be like, oh, who she thinks she is. All that type of stuff. And it's not that you think you're somebody else. You're evolving into the person that you're supposed to be.
Yes.
People are used to this old version of you, people pleasing, all that stuff. And so as you evolve into that, it looks different for everybody. And so I'm glad. I had to follow the voice of God for sure, because me trying to do it on my own in my own strength, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And the result of that and the evidence of that was stress, anxiety.
Yeah. I agree. Is there anything else you want to add on life transitions, or a last message I do want you to send a last message to the audience in regards to life transition, and if anybody else is experiencing something similar or just different.
Yeah. I would say for life transitions, if you are in a place where you are stressed out and just not knowing where to turn, I will say this. I always tell this to my clients, when you are out of alignment, the result of that will be stress, anxiety, and all those different things. But when you flow into a space of alignment, it's out of love, it just flows, and you are in a space of authenticity, truth. So you start to flow, it feels good, it doesn't feel like work and all those different things. But the opposite of that, which is fear, which is operating in ego and flesh, you want what you want, and so it's just I want what I want, but you're going to be stressed out trying to do it. Yeah. So I just say just surrender to what that looks like. Surrendering can look like, just asking God, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Everybody has a purpose. So.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Life transitions. Can you tell me about your experience with the different transitions you experienced in life?
Every transition that I went through, some of them was crazy. I mean, I feel like after actually getting, out of trouble and trying to transition back into the corporate world, it was kind of a challenge, just because I never gave myself more and never offered myself more. So I was trying to figure out how to operate in the corporate world. So the biggest life transition for me was when I had to be incarcerated for 6 years. I did 4 years on house arrest and then 2 years probation. So over that time, I learned myself. I was able to identify what did I like doing and what I didn't like doing. I learned a lot about myself. I didn't have to be intertwined in the crowds of people that I was in. I was able to actually become peaceful with myself, and I was able to learn myself a lot better. So I started picking up reading, trying to learn a skill. I picked up skill about learning about like stock market. Like I learned how to do fundamentals, stock options, started learning how to build my credit.
Yeah.
And just was reading a lot of books and just, obtaining the knowledge. So I was just trying to figure out how to transition into the lifestyle that I wanted. So I had to obviously not be around the same people I was operating with. I had to get around people that wanted the same things I wanted. So within that time to myself, I was building myself up and learning how to transition. So then when I got back into the real world, I started going to those conferences. I started going to those networking events. I started putting my name out there. I was stamping my name out there and trying to put myself in position to be around people that was like me. So that was probably one of the biggest transitions. But for anybody that's out there listening, I would probably tell anybody that's coming from a street background or just any background, whether you're an artist, wherever you're coming from, don't be scared to go into the unknown. Like, don't be scared to bet on yourself. Always push the motivation within yourself, because you can be the game changer for your family. So that's all I would say is just, if you're going to transition, just do it the right way. Motivate yourself, stay disciplined. Discipline is going to take you a lot further than anything else that I can obviously tell anybody right now. I mean, discipline is always going to be the first thing I'm going to tell anybody. Like, you have to mentally discipline yourself. You have to cut out all of the negative things that move you. So like, I know certain things that I identify with myself that might, trigger me to act a certain way. So I've been learning how to respond with negative things in a positive light. Yeah. Or how to take the bad things and make it a positive. Because sometimes that's hard to do. Is like, sometimes we endure so much bad things and we don't know how to embrace it for the right thing. So I just started learning how to manage how to get through that. I feel like any type of thing you're gonna go through in life, you're gonna go through any obstacle where it's gonna be ups and downs. So you have to learn that that's supposed to happen in your journey. It says it in the Bible, like, you're supposed to go through those dramatic experiences to be able to level up. So if you're not going through that and it's just an easy coast ride, you obviously you're not in your alignment with God or whatever that you have going on in your life. You have to go through those sequences to become who you need to be.
You said two things that I wanted to ask you a question. The last thing you just said, a lot of people do go through things, but instead of, I'll say, facing it head on, they'll try to, use the substances or just find different ways to escape. And you mentioned like discipline, but is there anything else because sometimes it's like, I don't want to deal with that, Yeah. Is there anything that you feel like you've done to like keep you motivated when you facing those challenges? And
you have to figure out what is your peaceful place. Like for me, I obviously like music, so I like to listen to music. I like to make music. I come from a musical background. Like, I used to be an artist at one point in time in my life. I feel like a lot of people do it locally, or whether you're doing it on a big stage. So that honestly was always my passion, and it's something that I always use as an outlet. I wasn't obviously trying to take it to the Drake level or nothing like that, but if it was bound to happen, then I would have definitely fell into the alignment. But overall, I use the music as an outlet, reading, just find something that you're interested in, that that you can escape with, and use that as your way of, kind of falling back on something, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I use as my mechanism of actually just falling back and just kind of realigning my goals in my mind to try to deal with things in a different way. So that's one of my escape places that I deal with, that I use. Yeah.
And I mean, even with that question, it kind of goes back to like you talking about basically your transition from being incarcerated to like coming back out and wanting to do things differently. Yeah. And I guess even in that, you can face different challenges, but how was that transition? Was it like, I know it wasn't easy, but
definitely wasn't easy.
How was that? I'll say like the pressure, or were there any like moments where you felt like I'm about to go back to my old ways, or,
Man, obviously, I mean, the humbling part about it is when you get used to a certain thing, like once you see something, you can't unsee it. Yeah. Whether it's good or bad, so if you make a lot of money the wrong way and you got to do it the clean corporate rate, it's kind of hard, because it's more of it's a humbling feeling, but you also have to humble yourself in a way, because you're used to doing certain things the way that you want to do it, when you want to do it. Like, so honestly, the transition for me was a little harder. But at the same time, it was a lot clearer, because it was either one or two ways it was going to go, dead or in jail. I started seeing a lot of my people around me start catching crazy cases. One of my homeboys' dad ended up getting incarcerated that You know, I looked up to. He was cool. People watched him almost get life in prison. Man, almost serving a 30-year something sentence.
Yeah.
Another one of my homeboys got picked up by the feds. And it was just starting to feel like it was time to do something different. So I knew that in my heart, it was I was praying to God, and God was telling me like it's time to change lanes. It's time to do something different. So I had to take that with the full flying colors, and I had to change. I'm like, man, this ain't gonna go good if I keep doing this. I can keep trying to get that and do that, and this is going to end bad for me. So I had to figure it out, and that's when I had to start learning more about myself to figure out that I had other options outside of music, outside of being in the streets. I'm like, you know, hustling and stuff is cool, but it's like it only goes so far. So I had to figure out like you honestly got something better that you can do. You can do something more for yourself. So once I analyzed that about myself, I'm like, man, I can do it. And I've been pushing ever since, you know what I'm saying? But I know it's definitely hard for a lot of people that's coming from a hustler background. It's definitely going to be points in your life where when you're going through these transitions of changing, where people are going to try to trigger you to go back to that lifestyle. You're going to hang around friends that's going to think you switching up. They're going to be like, oh, you ain't the same way. You ain't trying to get no money. You on some lame shit. They don't understand what you're trying to do overall. So in the mix of that, you have to do what you got to do that's best for yourself. So that's what I did. And like I said, it was definitely challenging. It was definitely humbling. And man, it was a battle. It's still a battle sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like anybody that's in business, you're gonna go through a lot of failures before you actually, you know, get where you want to be. So that's all I would say is just, man, stay focused, stay driven, find something that can help you get your alignment back together, whether it's meditating, praying, whatever you got to do. Just figure out what's your safe place where you can go and escape for a little bit, whether it's spending time with your family. Just get some type of relief, some type of release from whatever you got going on. And for anybody that's transitioning over, man, just believe in yourself and never give up. Even when it get hard, keep pushing. Just keep pushing. Yeah. That's all I would say.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, life transitions?
Life transitions.
Okay, so life transitions, I feel like it's something that we all will experience. And I've been talking a lot about a lot of us transitioning from childhood to adulthood. That's the immediate one we can see, but it's so many different transitions in life that we can experience, like single to parenthood, even the transitions with career, purpose, all of that good stuff. It's so many transitions that one person is going to take in their life, and learning to deal with it and be okay with it. That's a part of that journey too. But can you tell me about your experience with life transitions?
I've had a few life transitions. I was married young. I was married for 15 years. And my ex-husband battled with drug addiction. And so at a young age, I didn't know what to do. So I dealt with it alone for maybe about 5 to 10 years. I dealt with it alone. I didn't tell anybody he was on drugs. We ran in the same circles. So I was embarrassed, you know, and so I worked with the company that gave great benefits to drug addiction and mental health and all this stuff. And so they put him in the best of the best rehab, and they sent us through this place called Al-Anon. And so it was for the families that was dealing with the person that's addicted. And so they actually helped me a lot because I didn't know I was young, you know what I mean? And I was like, what am I supposed to be doing with this? Like, I got kids. I only had one kid then when it started, my oldest son. I was like, I got this baby. And back then, I was probably making like $9 an hour, trying to deal with the home, take care of the home, not telling nobody that he's stealing all the money, we about to get evicted, like all this stuff. So my mom helped me a lot because I have other family members that were addicted to drugs, but it never was in my, like, you know, in my house, you know. And so my mom, she helped me a whole lot to deal with the situation, and she helped him because she struggled with drug abuse. My father struggled with drug abuse, and so she was able to help me with that. And so, unfortunately, my marriage ended with him still being addicted to drugs, but I was able to deal with it because I had to first realize it wasn't my fault. Because I was trying to figure out, like, what did I do to make him go to drugs? What was I not doing as a wife? Like, how did I let this happen? And so when I was able to realize that it wasn't me, it wasn't my fault, I was able to, I had to let it go because it was harming me. He did get physical at one point, and that kind of like ended everything for me. That ended the marriage, that ended the friendship. Because like we were separated, but that was still my friend. I was still like answering the phone for him. He's still my children's father. But when it got physical, it was like, yeah, this is a place that I don't want to be in. I'm not comfortable in this place. And so I was able to transition from that. It took me a while to really get over that, like, because that was my first everything, right? So that was my first, we was together since we were 14. So he took my virginity. This is my first love. This is my first marriage. This is my first, my kids, and you know what I mean? And so in my eyes, I was never supposed to get divorced. This was it. You know what I mean? And so when it ended, it was like, wow, you know, like this is a struggle, because why? Like that was like truly my best friend. It was like, dang, you know, but I had to understand that people that deal with drugs and have drug addictions, they are not acting in themselves. And so the person that I married was no longer the person that I married. And so that kind of helped me to move forward and move on with my life. I wished him well. I pray for him still, but it's just that part was over. And there, of course, my sister passing, that was a transition for me, going from somebody I talk to on a regular when I have issues or problems, you know, my go-to person, no longer having her. It was a struggle, but in all things, I got an understanding. I built up such a strong prayer life, dealing with difficult things, but all of my transitions aren't bad. I transitioned from being someone with an awesome work ethic, working for someone else, to becoming a serial entrepreneur and working for myself and learning the ropes of entrepreneurship and learning how to market for myself and learning like all these people with these businesses, how like they make it look easy, but it definitely takes some work. But I'm definitely proud of myself for stepping out on faith and trusting that God has me in my career and my businesses. The not-for-profit, everything is going well. So those are some of like my major transitions.
I think I want to ask you, because I do have a lot of clients actually who been in, I'll say, decade, 2 decades, like 10 plus or 20-year marriages, and you know, the divorce happens in that transition. Like, what would you say was like, I know you probably were dealing with a lot, just not, you know, not the blaming in yourself, you mentioned that, but to move past that, like, what was some of that, how did that look for you?
So first of all, the divorce was a struggle, even though I've never told anybody that it bothered me. They just know that me and him was not on good terms, and when I was done, they knew like, oh yeah, she done. You know what I mean? However, That was one of the emotional things that was hard for me to get over. I didn't want to be divorced, which I never told nobody that either. But I didn't want the divorce. I didn't. I had hope. Growing up in the church, you hear about like how you're not supposed to get divorced. Once you're married, you're married. You know what I mean? And so I fought like really hard for my marriage. I stood in the gaps where I just like I knew like I you gotta fix this because you said that I couldn't get divorced, but sometimes we make decisions without God's permission. And so although I was married for 15 years and I married young, it was just by the grace of God that we didn't divorce sooner. You know what I mean? I believe a lot of people don't really understand marriage. They don't understand, like wives, I'll say. They don't understand their role as a wife. Society has put it in their heads that they're supposed to just be submissive and do what their husbands say. And that's not so much how I read it in the Bible. When you think about the husband is supposed to follow Christ. He's the head. So you got Christ, then you have your husband who's following Christ and doing things Christ-like and walking upright before God. And then you have your wife. The wife is the backbone to the husband, right? And so you have to be strong enough to hold him up. You have society beating him up, especially black men. You have the society beating him up. You have him trying to stay focused and follow Christ and do what's right. And you got all this other negative stuff around him, the women, the job, the finances, trying to keep the house going and not bother you, the wife. But a lot of women aren't strong enough to hold him up. A lot of women don't know that they should pray for their husbands at night when he's sleeping, when he wakes up, when he leaves out the door, as he's driving to work, that you should be in constant prayer for him so that he can stand against the fouls of the world and the craziness, the madness that he has to go out there and deal with. Yes, you are supposed to take care of your home and the children and the cook and clean and all that fun stuff. But if you are a woman that has to work like me, I'm not Susie homemaker, you know what I mean? I'll cook and, I'll clean, but like I want to get out there too and we work together and make money and build an empire for our family. But you can't lose sight of your true duties. You have to hold your husband up. And a lot of people fail. A lot of women fail at that. The moment that he falls apart, that's because you ain't holding him up.
Yeah.
But they don't want to take accountability for that.
I have, not this season, but I feel like a lot of society or whatever it is. I've been saying it. And people, I don't know, but people feel that I'm like, in today's society, and I'm seeing it more and more, like women, they problem, especially I can speak on my culture, black women. And even with the election, I'll just say this, because this is the most recent thing I'll say on a large scale, attacking the black man before that popular vote was even cast, like just talking down on them. It's like you said, it's already a lot against them right now. And now you're talking down on them before a choice has even been made, like in just condemning them, belittling them. And then you want them to lead when you just tore them down mentally.
But see, sometimes too though, society plays a huge role in the structure of today's marriage.
It does.
Right? So you don't find very men following Christ. So for me, if I'm going to be married, you have to follow Christ. If you're not following Christ, I'm not following you.
Exactly.
And so that's where that whole, you got to be submissive. I don't know. You're supposed to love your wife as Christ loved the church, and I'm supposed to do as you do it, as you following Christ. I'm supposed to follow you. But if you're not gonna lead me to hell.
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
well, I don't really know. It's changing. I don't really know. I can't really say.
Like, marriage isn't big like it used to be.
It's not, and then people not taking it serious at all.
People get married and then 6 months later be divorced.
Yeah.
They need to read the word, because you still married
Yeah.
and you commit adultery. And that's even me. I'm divorced.
A lot
And I'm in a whole nother relationship.
of people, well, you just say this, a lot of people don't even divorce and they're just,
Yeah, they just out here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Separated, they're not divorced. At all.
That was me. I was separated. I was separated for, let's see, 2004 was the first time I separated. I moved back to Chicago from Arizona. I was separated for a year because I found out I was pregnant with my youngest son. So then he moved back to Chicago. So I would say I was separated from like 2000 and maybe 11 to like 15. I had a whole nother relationship. I was living in a whole nother state. You know, then I came back. We never got back together, but like, I didn't care that I was still married. I was talking who I wanted to talk to, because he had a girlfriend, I had a man. Like, you what?
And you know what? I don't know. Like, especially in the Black culture, that happens a lot. A lot of people don't divorce; they just separate, and they've been separated
Because they don't read the word. And I was reading the word, but I didn't care. I was doing what I wanted to do. I was doing what I felt was going to help the emotional aspect of me and him not being together.
Yeah.
You know? And so, to me, like, it is what it is. That's how I was moving. But like now, where I am in life, where I am spiritually, where I am on this journey, on this walk, if I don't get married, I won't be in another relationship. I just had the conversation. I'm in a relationship.
No,
And I just had the conversation, like, no. Like, either we gonna jump the broom or this is not gonna work. So.
No, I agree with that. I like that. Actually, yeah, I feel like that's that's a big one, and I also another one. I mean, grief too. That definitely is, because you're not only grieving the loss of that person or whatever the situation may be, but that version of yourself too. You know, you're grieving that too. And then next thing you mentioned was like the career thing. I feel like, honestly, we're all called. I'm not gonna say like what it is, but entrepreneurs, I feel like we're called to be that. In entrepreneurship, we do work together still.
Absolutely.
It's not like an organization, but I feel like we're all called to be entrepreneurs, and even that transition, I feel like a lot of people are making that transition. Even though a lot are making it blindly, just like, oh, I want to make money. I see a lot of people are successful at this, but like you said, they don't know the work that it takes, and also they're not leading into entrepreneurship with purpose in mind. Like,
absolutely,
greed in mind versus God, what are you telling me to do right now?
Absolutely.
So those, life transitions, and those are just 3 things.
That's just 3. Like, it's so many. It is so many. Even like transitioning from even your children. So your children grow up.
Yeah.
And you go from having like little kids to having teenagers, and teenagers to having adult children. And it's like, that was huge for me. My kids are like everything to me. Like, I don't care. I could be 100 and they could be whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, they are everything to me, and I will always, always, always have their back or their front or their side. But I have to realize that they're adults.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? These not my little babies no more that I have to shield and protect them from the world. You know what I mean? They have to go out and have their own life transitions and have their own experiences, you know. So like my oldest having a daughter, like I be wanting to step in all the time, like don't yell at her, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, no, they got to discipline her, you know what I'm saying? And even in him having his own relationship, you know what I'm saying? I just try to keep both of them encouraged, you know what I'm saying? Even though they aren't married, they know, like, y'all know this not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all had this baby, but y'all know this not right. And so they listen, you know what I'm saying? But I know they're young.
But I
And
think
so
the best thing that you're doing is just being there to support. Oh, it's not a lot. That's another thing. I feel like the biggest thing a parent can do is that unconditional love and support, because they are humans experiencing this world too. And just having that person that, you know, a support person that comes
absolutely. And I never want them to feel like I gave up on them. You know what I mean? I never want, like my youngest one, he is in college. One wanted to go to school, the other one didn't. The other one wanted to choose career and family, and then one wanted to go to college and get that experience, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm for it, you know, and I have to let him know, like, even though you're away, because my youngest one went away to college young. So he was 16 when he went to the campus, and I was like, man, I don't know if you're ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, this going to college is usually for like somebody going into adulthood and this, and you still a baby to me. You know what I'm saying? Even when he went to high school, he was 12. And so it was like, whew, you know, you moving a little fast, but he's very mature for his age. He makes very wise, well, he makes wise decisions with some stuff. He's still working on his financial, but he's still young. And so that's what I have to always remember. Like, he's 19 now. He turned 19 in August, and he has better credit than I do. You know what I mean? He was able at 18 to go finance his own vehicle without a co-signer and things like that. So like, I'm proud of them for making those type of decisions, because nobody taught me that. You know, so I made a lot of bad decisions, messed up my credit young. Now I got to fix it. You know what I'm saying? So for them to be young and already have 700-800 credit scores, I'm like, thank you, God, for just protecting them and keeping your hand on them, because nobody did that for me. I had to learn it on my own. I had to life transition, right? So yeah.
What would be a message that you would like to leave the audience in regards to the different transitions in life, or just anybody who's experiencing a transition at this moment?
I would say embrace the flexibility of life. There's so much room for lessons. There's so much room for error, but there's also a lot of room to get it right.
Yeah.
Now, you might not have a lot of time, but there is room for you to make a mistake and learn from it right away. Yeah. There is room for you to continue to grow and continue to deal with some personal development and some just empowerment. You know what I mean? So don't take life for granted. Don't waddle in your sorrows and unhappiness and unhealthiness. Take life by the horns and literally ride that thing. Just enjoy it. Like, enjoy every moment of it. Don't let a day go by where you don't enjoy life. Every transition, everything. Just enjoy it. Learn from it and enjoy it.
I agree. I agree. And you know, it reminded me. I was talking to somebody, and it was like, you know, one door closes, another one opens, like cliche. But a lot of times when one door closes, we want to go back. And that's like the grief, like, no, this is one of my comfort zone, like that relationship. This, you know, it's like God just presented the door to you, and why are you still trying to open that one? He already closed that door. But you, and this is that being stuck and stagnant, or it's like the grief, like you're stuck when God just, you know. So embracing that new door, like you said, life is flexible. It's a lot of flexibility when it comes to life, and we're here to experience it. And if you really have your, I'll say, open and trusting, having that faith in God, knowing that this was meant to be, it had to happen this way, you're gonna go and just, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy, but just go.
Yeah, it might not be. It might be hard to tell.
Yeah,
But what I do know, when you take the limitations, I'm not going to even just say God, because a lot of people put God in a box. But when you take the limitations off of life,
yes,
and realize that you can do all things through Christ. Like, you're limitless.
Yeah.
Like, there is no limit to what you can do. And so if we get to a place where we're just like so comfortable in our own skin, so comfortable with life, you'll be able to enjoy it to the fullest. Travel, see the world, see other things that you didn't think you could ever see. Like, really live life. Because that's what we're supposed to do.
that is what we're supposed to do.
We're not here to, like, God didn't put us here to, our purpose isn't to be emotional and be worried and be sad and be just unhappy. Like, all of that. God, that's not our purpose.
Yeah, it's not.
It's definitely not our purpose. So just live life to the fullest.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yes.
So life transitions, I feel like, well, I know everyone experienced different transitions at different parts of their life. Can you tell me about your experience with life transitions?
Well, see, as a numerologist, transitions to me means the stages that we go through in life. So when we're kids, we go through one thing, but it's interesting in the part of the life transition that when we become adults, it's a lot that has to do with our early upbringing, how we were raised and things like that, how things affect us. Now, there's a term in numerology called the life cycles. That is your formative years, your productive years, and your harvest years. So the formative years come from the month you were born. So we're going to take an example, February the 3rd, and what year will make it 1993, okay? So a person born February, that means it's the early stages. So your formative years cover your first 28 years, or your Saturn or solar return, as they call it. And so it governs your early childhood, your upbringing, your education, your parenting, your brothers and sisters, of course, mothers and fathers, that's obvious, but other relatives, aunts and uncles and grandmothers and things of that nature. And that's called the formative years. That's what shapes actually our development as we begin to evolve and mature and go older. So then we get to that stage where we then enter what is called the productive phase of this life cycle. Now, what does that mean? That means that's when we either fall in love, fall out of love, get married, go get a job. We find, see, and there's a difference too in this transition at this point in the productive cycle, because there's a job, there's a career, and then there's a profession. So a job means somebody goes and gets something just to make ends meet, you know, paycheck to paycheck. Career is where one says, okay, I'm going to be a analyst, and that is what they make their career. And then one is a profession, like a professional doctor, a professional lawyer, or whatever the case is, or a professional numerologist like myself. So I am actually a professional person, and it's kind of career because this is all I do my thing on. But it's in this stage of the productive cycle that one begins to form their own family. So in the earlier cycles, don't forget, we're born into a family of brothers and sisters and relatives and things like that. But then when we get to that middle part of this phase of life, then we go into where we start creating our own family by way of marriage and children and getting our own home and our own cars and all this other stuff. And then we go to that final phase, the latter part of the life, whereby now it's about, okay, savings, investments, leaving a legacy to our children or our grandchildren or whatever the case is. And also in this transition, it's so funny too, because like when we were children, it would take forever and a day for Christmas to come around.
Yeah.
See what's under the Christmas tree, okay? So then in the productive cycle, that middle phase where now you become a parent on the other end and you know that Santa Claus is really mommy and daddy, and you got to come up and put those presents under there. It's a whole thing. But to the elders, where time seems to fly for them, it's like, wasn't Christmas here only 2 months ago?
Yeah.
So it's these transitional things that we go to. So that's why you can talk to people, and this is why a 6-year-old will understand something that a 60-year-old will not. That, you know, in other words, there are different stages. So you got people, let's say, born on February the 3rd of that year, but you could have a person February the 3rd that's 10 years old, February the 3rd that's 45 years old, and February the 3rd that's 80 years old. It makes a big difference because based on life's experience. And I guess that where that phrase comes from, youth and wisdom don't go together.
Yeah.
Or the elders will say, see, when they get to the other side of the rainbow, they will say, well, youth was wasted on the young, or wisdom, because that's the only way we can evolve. This is why the things you know now will be totally different than the things 10, 15, 20 years from now. You might be a mom, you might be married, you might discover a new career, or whatever the case is. That's what makes life exciting.
It
Because
does.
you never know. And that's why God don't give us a crystal ball, because we would know who to stay away from, who to stick with, which way to turn, or whatever to go. So that's why youth and wisdom don't go together. And which is why we have to do these stages as we go along in the school of life. That's what I call it. The school of life is what we're here to learn. And unfortunately, my dear, there's some people who never learn.
Yeah.
That they can make one wrong turn, one wrong decision, it'll catapult their life in a downward spiral. Then you can have another person where they can make that kind of thing that really elevates them and take them to another level. And it all depends on two, especially in our productive and formative years, where we begin to form our friends and associates and whatnot. Okay. All of this thing shapes everything we do. The latter part is different because now we've got experience. We know who to stay from, who not people not to deal with, and stuff like that. But basically, it's when we form our friendships in elementary school, junior high, high school, college, and then from there start at another level in our career, in our association and societies or whatever we join. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very fascinating question you pose, because but we all go through these life transitions.
We
It's just how we do it, and in what way we do it, and how it influences us to a greater or lesser degree.
So I will ask this question. Is there any advice or guidance you would give to anybody who's going through a transition right now in life? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would give it as a numerologist. Of course, I am partial, for example, because in numerology, we go each and every year through a cycle, a personal year cycle. So let me back up by saying the universal cycle for this year, 2025, is a 9, because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 adds up to a 9. So this is a universal cycle that all of us feel. 9 is humanitarian, it's global, universal. To the negative, it's about conflicts and wars and strifes and things like that, fender benders and confrontations and arguments. So these are the kinds of things that people should stay away from on the negative. Careful handling guns and knives and sharp instruments. Careful of losing your temper. Not too long ago, I was looking at an article out in California, how road rage has increased. You know what I'm saying? That people get very short with each other. But then there is your personal year cycle, where you take the month and day you were born, but you add, instead of the year you were born, you substituted in its place the year of 2025. So with permission, can I just take your month and date of birth? I don't need your year. To give you an example.
722.
722. All right.
Yes.
So with 722, what I did was I took 722, added it to 2025, and you happen to be in a master number 11 personal year. Now, first of all, you're in the very early stages of Leo.
Yeah.
And master number 11 governs the sign of Leo. So it tells me for you, this will be a year to elevate your life, to take it to the next level, to take it up a notch, to, you know what I'm saying? What's that thing? It's a level up as they call it. That's the thing they're talking about now. In the cycle, it also indicates there's going to be a change in relationships, whether it's makeups or breakups. This is good for mending fences or good for separating yourself from situations. It also indicates a change in your dietary laws, because each of us go through cycles. And maybe what I should do, so no one is left out, is take the time to explain to people if they're in a 1 through 9 cycle. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for those who want to find out how you get this cycle, you take your month and date of birth, and then you add it to the year. So, for example, that example I gave, February the 3rd, well, when I add the 2 plus the 3 added to the 2025, they're in a 5 personal year. So we'll start with, if your month and date of birth, when you added the 2025, adds up to a number 1, that means now you're in a cycle where you start fresh. You start new. You start all over again. Now you begin to plant the seeds of what you want for the next 9 years as you move forward. This is a cycle where you stand on your own. And in one cycle, a lot of people step out on faith. They start their own business. They become managers, supervisors, directors, get raises or promotion, but they become more independent in some way. In a 1 cycle year, this is when they become selfish, because it's not about what other people want. It's about what they want, which is why it's a me, myself, and I kind of situation. Let's say a person, if they add their month and date of birth to 2025 and it comes out to a 2, that means this is a year where they're going to make a transition. This is a year where they form alliances. This is a partnership relationship. This is when, say, somebody wants you to join something like Mary Kay. I don't know if the Mary Kay Cosmetics still exists, but the point is somebody wants you to join with them. They want you to collaborate with them. They want you to be partners or whatever the case is. But it also indicates either a change in your environment where you, as they say nowadays, feng shui. Well, I'm tired of looking at that couch over there. Let me put it over here. Or whatever the case is, or changes at the workplace, new supervisor, new work location and stuff. But a change also in your dietary laws too. And they will find that the people who will help them will be under the sign of Cancer, or those born on the 2nd, the 7th, the 11th, the 16th, the 20th, the 25th, and the 29th of the month. So Leos aren't left out. They will find, number 1s aren't left out. They find that in the 1 personal year that Leos, Aquarians, and Aries will help them, or people born on the 1st, the 4th, the 10th, the 13th, the 19th, 22nd, like you, the 28th, or the 31st of the month. So let's say when somebody adds their month and day to the year 2025 and it comes up to a 3, well, that tells me this particular cycle or transition in your life, it's about having a lot of fun. It's also working on a self-improvement program. It's also about expanding your network, expanding your career, things of that nature. It is also the time to push your name, your career, your reputation, and move that forward. It's also a time to really express yourself in ways that shows you have ambition, drive, get up and go, and determination to succeed. It's also a cycle that deals with legal or semi-legal matters that's likely to be resolved in your favor. But it's also called a cycle of prosperity, Sierra, where you make more money than is usual. So everybody like that part of it, okay? Let me make some more dollars up in here, okay? So it's like that. They're going to find that Pisces and Sagittarius will help them, or anybody born on the 3rd, the 4th, the 21st, or the 30th of the month. Now, let's say somebody, when they add their month and date of birth, and it happens to be a 4 personal year. Well, 4 rules boundaries. You know, it's very popular. Everybody and their mother talk about boundaries now. About this, boundaries about that. So, but it's boundaries in a sense that you follow a roadmap. You don't do things in a helter-skelter fashion. You do things with purpose, with intention. It's having a blueprint or outline or some kind of formula to follow. It is a cycle where by what you put into it is what you get out of it. So if a person is doing things just by the seat of their pants, so to speak, they're not going to do as well as if they kind of plan things out ahead of time. They're going to find it in this 4 personal year that they will have a sense of like everything being the way they want to. There may be, and it's also a cycle where needs versus wants. You might want something, but you need to handle your business and get this straight. Okay.
Yeah.
Most people just want something because they want something, but not, and sometimes neglect the needs. Well, 4 says don't do that. Needs come first. And it's also a waste not, want not, lend not, borrow cycle too. So try not to borrow money, try not to loan money. They'll find that those under the sign of Aquarius and Leo and Geminis will help them, or anybody that's born on the 1st or the 4th, the 10th or the 13th, the 19th, 22nd, 28th, or 31st of the month. Now, let's say somebody whose birthday adds up to a 5, when you add the month and day to 2025. When you're in a 5 cycle, that means you're at the midway point in your 9-year transition in life. It's like you're at a fork in the road. And at this fork in the road, you got to make a decision. Should you go left or right? And the way I illustrate it's like you driving along the highway, right? Then you come off the exit. But when you come off the exit, there's normally a stop sign or traffic signal there. And while you're stopping on the traffic signal, waiting for it to go green, you ever see signs going in all kinds of directions. So for when you enter that period, it's like, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I go forward? Or should I go back down and go off the next exit? But it's like a turning point. It is a paradigm shift. It is the way you do things. And normally it denotes change for the better. Some may want change for the better in their career. Others may want change for the better in a relationship, change for the better in health, change for the better in any other conditions that comes to mind. But it's also a cycle of opportunities too, a cycle of possibilities, where and a cycle of diversity. And when I notice when a person's going through a 5 personal year, the best way to hold on to them is to let them go. All right. So they will find that Geminis and Virgos will help them, or people born on the 5th, the 14th, or the 23rd of the month. Now, let's say you got a person and their month and date of birth, when you add it to the year 2025, adds up to a 6. That means that this is the time for them to go back to school. This is the time where they become a work in progress. This is the time where they be evolving. They take on responsibilities. They try to be persons of their word. You know that saying, talk is cheap? Well, when you're in a 6 cycle year, you're going to be measured pretty much by what you say and what you do. So there used to be a saying in the old days of my parents and grandparents, you can show me better than tell me. Well, that's what a 6 is, okay? And what it is because it deals with duty, responsibilities, obligations, things of that nature. And it also takes on the whole thing of like always being, again, that work in progress, going to school, taking a course or workshop or seminar or whatever the case is. And in this cycle, there's a strong sense of right and wrong and justice I love you, honey, but you're wrong. Oh, this guy, but they're right. It's that kind of thing. And sometimes that's not always easy to do. And it's also about making adjustments in some form of compensation. So the people that are likely to help a person in a 6 personal year would be Taurus and Libras, are born on the 6th, the 15th, or the 24th of the month. Now, let's say you got somebody when they had their month and date of birth to the year 2025. They happen to be in a 7 personal year. This cycle is called the cycle of the law of attraction. So whatever you're thinking, that's what will come your way. So if a person's walking around saying, I have no money, the source will make sure they don't have a penny by the end of the year. So the one thing that makes 7 unique out of all the cycles is more spiritual, more metaphysical, more soul searching. So in other words, we live in a very material and emotional world where it's about the money, it's about love or relationships. But 7 makes you go within. It makes you question, why am I dealing with this person? Why am I doing this? Or why am I doing that? It's about self-examination. It's about soul searching. It's about secrets revealed too, that things have been kind of hidden from you, kind of rise to the top like cream. You know what I'm saying? It also is a cycle that whatever you want, you draw to you. So, and the elders say you would let go and let God, because what you want, you see it on the mental screen of your mind. Well, yes, I want to get a car. Yes, I'd like to have more love in my life. Well, don't chase after it, because in the 7th cycle, if you're chasing after it, it's because it's trying to run away from you. So rather than chase, you magnetize by simply thinking about it. You know, you have that experience where you daydream and you just bored on the job and you're everywhere within that job.
Yeah.
If you can kind of create that kind of feeling, and in it, though, create the kind of scenario you see, then you'll find within a short period of time, those things will come to you. So if love is what you're after, magnetize it. If career or money or new car is what you want, magnetize it. That is the governing law of attraction. Now, who will likely to help will be Cancers and Pisces, or people born on the 2nd, the 7th, the 11th, the 16th, the 20th, the 25th, the 29th of the month. These will be the signs that would help. Now, let's say when they add their month and date of birth and it adds up to a number 8. Well, this is the power cycle. Now, Sarah, this is the one that this is the cycle that everybody wants, because it's associated with money, power, authority, achievement, recognition. But it's also the cycle that deals with pregnancies, okay? And so when I say pregnancies, it doesn't have to be literal. It could be symbolic.
Yeah.
On one hand, a person could get married or get pregnant or give birth. But on the other hand, they give birth to an idea, birth to an enterprise, birth to an endeavor or project or plan. You see, when I say that, then women stop sweating, but I just say it anyway to keep the one they tell. And also in the 8th cycle, that's when one does a lot of growing up. This is part of your transitional phase when you go through that cycle. Then, by the way, Capricorns will help them. Aquarians and Libras will help them, or people that are born on the 8th, the 17th, or the 26th, because 1 plus 7 is 8 and 2 plus 6 is 8. Finally, there is persons if they're going into a 9-cycle year. Like the state of California is in a 9-cycle year. They're born September the 9th of 1850. But if I add September the 9th to 2025, California is in a 9 personal year. And it's also a 9 universal year for the world. Anytime a personal year is matching a birthday, that's considered auspicious. But when you're in a 9 personal year, that means a phasing out of something. It means you begin to close the books. It normally means termination. Enough is enough. Like a child is born after a mother is pregnant 9 months, then life comes into the world. I'm out of here. So 9 represents humanitarian, global, universal, international. It represents people who take things to a universal level. So when I tell a person when they're in a 9 universal year and they're trying to develop a niche, the whole world really belongs to them, because 9 is universal, literally in every sense of the word. 9s also, to the negative rules, staying away from guns and knives and sharp instruments, avoiding confrontations, arguments, conflicts, just being left alone for the most part. 9 also is a cycle that is very assertive. They have very good opinion of themselves. And they like to be the master of their fate and the captain of their ship. They will find that if they're in a 9 personal year, that Aries and Scorpios and Leos will play a part, or people that are born on the 9th, the 18th, or the 27th of the month. So these are some of the numerical life transitions people go through. And it all depends on the age. So, for example, a youngster who's in a 9 cycle year may in their finishing school, a person in their formative years may finally reach a level where there's a dream come true. And a person in the harvest years, that's when they may think about retiring, going into another career, things of that nature. So it all depends not only on the cycle, but the age the person is in the cycle.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I say 6 and 8 are your pregnancy cycles, well, a 6-year-old boy, a 7-year-old girl don't understand that. I mean, they may hear the word, but now if you talk to a young man or young woman in their late teens and early 20s, that may have significant meaning. And yet, if you talk to a lady in her 60s or 70s, pregnancy, you must be talking about something else. Not that kind of party.
Yeah.
So it all depends. And that's the beauty of what I do, because I'm so blessed to talk to so many age dynamics that I've learned how to take all these things into consideration.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and giving people a different, I'll say, perspective on life transitions. I think I know a lot of people is going to take something from what you just gave them. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, so before we close, I want to thank my guests for their bravery and their strength today. It takes a certain kind of honesty to speak while you're still healing, to share your story, not from the finish line, but from the hallway, from that uncomfortable space where the old you is gone and the new you is still becoming. And it made me reflect on something that's been sitting heavy on my heart. So many of us are so scared to tell our truth, not because we're liars, but because we're scared we won't be loved once we tell it. But truth is the only way to experience real freedom. And truth is the only language your healing understands. I need y'all to hear this. You are allowed to grieve transitions. You are allowed to feel sad about what you had to let go of, even when it was necessary. You can love what something was and still accept it's not meant to be anymore. Because grief isn't just about people. It's about identity. It's about dreams. It's about past versions of you who held it all together the best way they knew how. Some of us are grieving the us that never had the chance to be free, the child who never got to rest, the teenager who had to be an adult too early, the woman who carried everything for everyone and called it love. And that's why we're stuck at these doors, not because we're weak, but because we were taught to survive, not surrender. And here's the deeper layer. Okay. And y'all know my favorite, and y'all know one of my favorite, now I'm going to say, one of my favorite sayings I say all the time: we were born looking like our family, but we die looking like our choices. So what will yours say about you? Are you going to spend the rest of your life looking back at doors God already closed? Or will you trust the path that's unfolding, even if it feels unfamiliar? Because a lot of us, we sit at that door because it feels like comfort and convenience will keep you stagnant in life. If you're living comfort, convenience, I'm certain you ain't living, because I think a lot of people get comfort and peace confused, because peace does not live in the past. It doesn't live in performance. It doesn't live in pretending. Peace looks like presence. It looks like showing up for yourself even when it's hard. It looks like honoring your truth before it's polished. It looks like walking away from doors you once begged to enter, because you know now you deserve better. And yes, that new door might be quiet. It might not have the applause, the comfort, the validation you used to cling to. But that quiet, that peace, that's where you meet God. It's so freeing. That's where you hear your own voice again. That's when you realize you don't need to pray for what you already carried. Because let me say this, I never really was a fan of what I would say a traditional sense of praying. And I would say not because I didn't believe in God, but because, well, right now I know I don't have to pray, because I know that God knows my deepest desires. I know that God knows my needs before I speak them. And a lot of times when we speak and we pray to God, it's not truth. It's what we think we want. It's what we think will bring us the peace, the comfort, the love, the joy. I don't know. It's us not having real faith and trust in God and what God wants for us. It's us not trusting the process. But I'm just all about living in alignment. I'm all about sitting in stillness. And when I sit in stillness, I can say, here I am, and I trust you. And that's my conversation. I mean, I'm just grateful for God and everything that God has done for me in this life. Yeah, that's what I'll say. Because I don't know, I just believe in a God who lives in truth. A God who walks with me in every room, especially the ones I was told not to enter. A God who doesn't need a title or a building to be present. And I imagine a world where we all stop fighting over whose version of a God is right. But let me stop talking about that, because y'all know I be preaching, I be talking. But I just want us to evolve together, not compete, not compare, but collectively heal. And that's why I created C Notes. But anyways, it's about walking through a new door. And that's what walking through a new door is all about. It's not about escaping what was. It's about evolving into what can be. So let's do that, and let's get into this last song, y'all. Lighten up the mood, lighten up the mood. Y'all know I be serious sometimes. Sometimes I don't like being that serious energy, but I want you guys to get something out of this. And I'm gonna say this too. I probably say this all the time, but do life the way you need to do life, in a healthy way, in a way that is giving back, a way that is helping the world evolve as a collective. But anyways, this last song of tonight, you know what I'm saying? Lupe Fiasco, the show goes on, okay? I want y'all to use that song to be our reminder. Old keys don't open new doors, okay? And because the show must go on. But old stories won't create a new life. You survived heartbreak, betrayal, abandonment, and disappointment. But surviving isn't the goal anymore. Living is. Loving yourself out loud, reclaiming your power. You are no longer just trying to make it. You're ready to thrive, to walk boldly, to stop asking permission. Let the door close. Let the story shift. Let the show go on, okay? Until next time, reflect on your transitions. Take care of your truth. And most of all, take care of you, all right?